streamed. Setting up your meeting for custom streaming service, which is a little different.
Oh, you go through it because it probably means that you haven't done it before on that computer.
Oh boy.
All right, so we're not going to stream.
No,
No, it'll be fine. It'll work. She's got to go through the dialogue.
it says meeting is now streaming live on custom streaming service. Can
Great.
we-
Now you're good. It should be streaming.
Can we check?
Do we-
Checks.
Okay, I have a LinkedIn. No, I have a Facebook. And
I have got a Gillmor
and LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
just
and Twitter.
It's streaming.
We're streaming. Okay, we're streaming live to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. My stupid dog is gonna occasionally bark in the background because she just won't stop. We're about to start the Gillmor gang. All right, places everybody. I'm gonna get full screen of Steve, and then we're gonna go, if I can remember how to do this, because we've had a little break. Oh, you can now pin or spotlight multiple people. That's cool. All right, Steve, mute is off, and we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and
hi, Steve Gillmor. This is the Gillmor gang. The Gillmor gang is arrayed in front of me in 2023. And that's my dog. Anybody want a free dog?
I'll take it.
I've got 2. I'll add my 2.
Yeah, but you have to send him here first class. I don't accept business class dogs.
I think I believe that our little dog would be lunch for your big dog, Keith. So, you know, we can't have that. We'll just have it.
No, I'm giving mine away. I'm not taking.
Okay.
Did you ask him what he thought of that?
So that really is true then. It is a dog eat dog world.
But seriously.
See what happens when you actually say something?
Yeah, I sound cornier and cornier, so I'm going back to my usual.
There you go. I knew that would happen. Okay, the guy that we just were talking to is Brent Leary. Welcome, Brent.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back. That's it.
That ain't a lower third, but it's a lower fourth.
And I just want to ask: what is the current bidding on those cameras behind you? I'm assuming they're there.
Are you selling off your empire?
Pay no attention to those cameras behind you, Keith. No, this is what happens when you have to do a firmware upgrade and you have 5 of the same cameras. You gotta anyway. Moving on.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that with a Bolex.
What would life be if it wasn't for firmware upgrades? We'd all feel useless, right?
Yeah, film. That's what it would be.
Gee, this is fun. The guy who's taken over the show is Keith Tier. Welcome, Keith.
Nice to be back with you all, gang. Wonderful, in fact. Looking forward to what we're going to talk about.
Really?
I am.
Do you have some insight into that?
I have none. That's why I'm sitting on the edge of my seat wondering what it will conjure up.
From the British Isles is Frank Radis.
Hey, mate.
And
Mate,
after I
nice.
do the rest of the intros, Frank and I have a little thing to talk about.
What?
A great person.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, everybody knows.
Yeah.
From the framework of Massachusetts is Dennis Pombriand.
Well, greetings and happy New Year to everybody. It's great to see all your clean, shiny faces. I've missed you.
And well, have we?
What?
What the hell?
That was that.
Exactly.
It made sense here in the framework.
No, it made sense. You made sense. I didn't. Oh, okay. From the state of Washington, that's appropriate. Okay, thank you. Is Michael Markman.
How do you do? The state of Washington is in good shape. I must say, I'm happy to be here. I'm trying to remember who you all are. It's been so long.
Yeah. Well, it's that COVID fog, right? Out of the fog and into the smog. Ooh, I
Oh.
did.
Aha,
Frank
Good.
understands.
Pretty
Frank
good.
Slate. Frank Slate.
Pretty.
Good.
Okay. And the woman behind us all, and who's the only real arbiter of what happens here, is Tina Chase Gillmor. Welcome.
Hey,
Wow.
Tina.
Pelosi clap.
Or what happens here? Geez, not really. But hello, everybody. I'm so happy to see all of you. It's been a minute. And you're all looking great, and I'm excited to hear what you're gonna talk about too.
So that phrase, "it's been a minute," I've heard it a lot, like in the last year or two, maybe, but I'd never heard it before that. Does it go back, that phrase, or is it new?
No, it's
I
just
think it's
a minute.
Newish.
It's been a
It
minute.
means something different in America. It's not the same as what it means overseas.
Overseas in the land.
Yeah.
I'm just pulling rank.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, there are plenty of words that have many different meanings over here
that's
than
the-
over there.
Yes.
Yes, we could go through them.
But
we're
We
not.
could, but
The
we
thesis
won't.
is that it's been a minute has such a characteristic as complete false.
I try to stay in with the new
Kids.
lingo of the kids.
The kids.
Gotta do that because
The
I gotta
kids.
communicate with them. I gotta understand
Well,
them.
here's how you
They gotta
do that.
understand me,
You
so-
do that. Lit. That's
Oh, it's
lit.
It's,
That's it.
it's all.
Yeah. Hey, nah, are you woke or something?
Hey, Frank, are you wearing a fanny pack?
No, it's a hoodie.
Oh.
I'll put it up and then I'll look all
Okay.
against it.
On a serious note, Frank Radis and I and many of our friends lost a dear friend. Well, and Tina, of course. As a matter of fact, the only picture that I've seen so far of our late great friend is with you. And you're looking, you say, mad.
I was looking a little mad in that picture.
Mad angry or mad crazy?
Yeah, that one.
No, a little bit. No, I was probably just being a little pensive in the photo, trying not to smile or something weird. I don't like my smile, so that was probably like thinking about, okay, don't smile, and I looked upset or something.
I used to do that too.
So the phone rings for me. I'm not sure what time it is, and it's Frank. And he says, what did you say?
Belzer has died.
And Belzer is Richard Belzer. Tell us.
Yeah. So I was advised by the guy who replaced me as the executive producer of entertainment news at CNN, who sent me an email. And he said, you introduced me to this guy, I don't know, maybe it was 2005 or something like that. And then when he became the executive producer, he started to book Belzer on the show all the time. And he was reminiscing about what a great guy he was and what a terrific guest he was. And, and he also mentioned the pilot that I did with Richard and guest he was and PJ O'Rourke. Well, hello, what was that? So it got me thinking, well, the first person I need to call is Steve. To let him know before the proverbial shit hit the fan, which it did. There were so many items and such a great outpouring of love and respect from people he worked with and people that we all worked with. And Steve and I had even tried to get him to join us here on the Gillmor Gang a number of times, but he was very sick. He had testicular cancer. It was not good. And
I didn't know that. Do you know that? I didn't.
No, I knew that he did have that. I do not know if that's what eventually he succumbed to, or succumbed to. He succumbed to it. But I do know that what his last words were, and they're a little colorful.
Be repeated here.
I won't repeat them here, but you can imagine if you knew Belzer, that they were colorful. And I had, as you mentioned, only seeing a picture with your lovely wife and Belzer, I went back through my vast archive of about 50,000 photos, and it took me about an hour to find a couple of them. One of them was from 2015. I invited him to a Halloween party at one of the companies I was working with, and I went as Detective Munch, and I wore all black, and he came as Detective Munch, and he was wearing all black, except he was carrying his dog Bebe, which he just went everywhere with. So if you were even around him around 20, sometime between 08 and 2016 or 2017, he didn't go anywhere without that dog. And he talked to every single person in that office. And I got so many emails from people at Definition 6 that I haven't spoken with in a long time, remembering their moments with Richard at that first party. And then he came to a couple of subsequent, couple of Halloween parties thereafter, until they were shut down by the police. And
okay, here's a tough question. Why does anybody who's watching the show who is not aware of Richard Belzer and his career as either a stand-up comedian or a moderator of famous, takedowns at what was the name of that club in New York?
Catch?
No.
Who was a catch?
No. I'm talking about the
Carolines.
no, the club that comedians go to.
Oh, the Friars?
The Friars Club.
Oh yeah. He actually
did a number of those.
He got me into the Friars Club, and back when it was a really cool place to go, it eventually just dissolved away. They tried so hard to get young people to join. I think I was maybe one of the youngest, and I might have been 50 at the time. So it was just a great place to go and see the great old.
So those people who aren't aware of Richard, why would they care? And I know there's a reason.
Well,
you've already alluded to it.
Well,
alluded to it in terms of the outpouring in social media. It was, to me, someone who, even though I'm struggling with social media, I've always felt that it had a value, unlike some other people on the show.
So I will say that it was because of the reason people remember Belzer the most has nothing to do with why, Steve, you and I might have remembered Belzer, and that's because of 23 or 24 seasons of Law and Order, and he also made a couple of historic crossovers. Actually, more than one. So he made 3 or 4 historic crossovers, all of which were shows that were produced by Dick Wolf. And he became somebody that was ubiquitous in modern television. But it's funny because all of these people who came out of the woodwork and were regaling us with their memories of Richard, a number of people came into this thread that I was reading and reminded us, not me, but those who were talking about him as an actor, that he was not only a great comedian, but he was I used to call him a comedic journalist. He would come into a club having read the paper, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, Chicago Tribune, and go into things that happened within the last few hours, or things that were in the sort of the zeitgeist of the news of the day, and make fun of it in the most topical way possible. So it created a situation where Belzer became something more than just a stand-up comic. He became, to me, a stand-up comic journalist. And that's why I asked him to come and host a program that I produced at CNN, which was the first comedy news show that CNN ever did. And it was the first show that preceded anything that was done on Comedy Central. When, he and I used to joke that what we did at CNN was way before Gillmor, was way before the stuff that Comedy Central was doing, and that we got ripped off and never received a dime for any of that. He was the smartest, funniest, warmest guy that I think I've known in my lifetime.
So from your description, it sounds something I recognize: a clever, lazy guy. Lazy meaning he could riff off reading the newspapers today and he didn't have to write a script or anything, because he was clever enough to churn, process, and then use stuff. So probably the pressure was not that great on him because he was relaxed, that he was good at doing that.
It's funny that you say that. I never once got the impression that he was under any kind of pressure. And I would hang out with him in the dressing rooms prior to the show, and he and I would be, you know what I mean, before we go out on the show. And he was just as loose as a goose. And I had no idea what he was going to go out there and say, short of being able to pick up a newspaper and go, oh, there's a headline right there: Donald Trump died. No, just kidding.
Missed that one.
I was just throwing that in there for you, Brent.
Someday it will be true.
Well, we'll get onto that later.
Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, in the late 70s, there were a handful of people who were at the very top of the New York comedy club scene. There was Catch a Rising Star, the Improv, the Comic Strip, and some of those names are names that everyone knows, like Seinfeld, Larry David, Gilbert Gottfried, Paul Reiser. And Belzer was at the top of that crew. But of all the people who became famous, he is the one who expanded farthest beyond his comedy roots.
Billy Crystal, became a movie star. That's not true.
Pardon?
Billy Crystal became a movie star.
Billy Crystal is a little older than that. He started earlier than that. He's not part of that scene.
He attributes his career in part, but a significant part, to Belzer's encouragement to have him transcend the Catch a Rising Star universe and go for a role.
Interestingly enough, Belzer at Catch a Rising Star was the guy that warmed up the crowd before the acts came on, before he actually started and became a full-time lead stand-up. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And you're right about his encouraging Crystal. He was at the leading edge of of course, there's the guy who did Spaceballs. I mean, there's been plenty of Mel Brooks. There's been plenty of comedians who made movies, but what Belzer did was he took his comedy and turned it into dramatic acting. And a lot of comedians since then have done the same thing.
Michael got kneecapped then a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, Michael.
I should give Michael a kind of a.
I want to say, in addition to encouraging people like Crystal, I have a lot of friends from that comedy scene. He had almost all of them have warm memories of him, and even those who never got to know him found him encouraging. Just seeing him backstage at a TV show or at a comedy club, he was encouraging. He was a very warm and open guy. But I'd like to add a little bit to what Frank said. Not all of his shows were Dick Wolf shows. The character actually started in a show that Dick Wolf had nothing to do with. Homicide, Life on the Street.
One of my favorite shows.
But Munch was not only in all of those Dick Wolf shows and Life on the Street. Simon, who did The Wire, brought Detective Munch into The Wire. as part of the Baltimore police scene. And he also appeared on Sesame Street.
Sesame Street. I was
Detective
gonna,
Munch. So
I was-
he's probably on more different TV shows. I think he was on a couple of the late night comedy shows as Detective Munch. He probably set a record for a
He
single
did.
character on more television shows than any other character.
Yeah, he did. I remember it was a trivia question. What one role has showed up on more shows than any other shows? And it was Munch as on all those different shows. I love the crossovers with when he was paired with Lenny Briscoe, though, right? Lenny Briscoe and Munch. I mean, does it get any better than that?
It certainly doesn't get any drier.
Frank has been stealing things off the set, it looks like.
I know. Was there ever a Munch crossover with NYPD Blue with Andy Sipowicz? Now, I would have loved to have seen
Yeah,
that.
that would have been good. This, by the way, was the badge that I wore at that Halloween party. So he said, "Oh, where did you get that?" Well, there were ways when you were in the film world in New York that you could go and legally borrow these. This is a real. Oh, I should put this down. A real NYPD detective's gold shield, and you could get those to be used as props in films.
Hey, did you get that from Herschel Walker?
I have never shown this outside of the 1,000 people that saw it at that party.
George Santos has one of those.
Yes,
No.
yes.
Tina, any thoughts about Richard?
Well, I didn't know Richard in depth really well, but I knew him over the years, and he was just, to me, he was just the nicest, kindest, sweetest, and super respectful, super always, whenever I would see him, he would treat me very nicely, look in my eyes, and ask me about me. And I always had a nice connection with him, but I think that was not at all unique. I think that was something that probably everyone who knew him would say, whether we would go over to his house in Beverly Hills, or whether we were in a club or was, somewhere. There was always a nice feeling to be with him, and it was always comfortable. That he never had any sort of airs about being in show business or anything. That wasn't it. I don't, that wasn't even part of the feeling.
Well, it's sort of
the
the opposite of
friendship.
that. It was like what he used to do, his little how he hated Broadway.
He was also a great stepdad.
It was always just he also had just something a little magical about him, he was funny in person. I know a lot of comics as well. I wouldn't say that for all of them, but he had a funny, engaging personality, and I think the one word that a lot of people use is warm. He was just a warm human being. He was a real human being, and we were all really lucky to know him and call him a friend.
I want to add that his wife Harley was a lovely lady, and her two daughters is a lovely lady, and her two daughters, Richard's stepdaughters, he was their father, and in fact he loved them to death, and he asked me to hire one of his daughters back at NBC, which I did, and he never made a deal out of it. She never made a deal out of it. Harley never made a deal out of it. She did a great job, and in the end Richard was just pleased, but we never talked about it because he just believed in her and cared about her and let her do her thing, which I thought was pretty amazing.
I would urge anyone listening to go on YouTube and look for some of Belzer's early TV appearances. His stand-up was completely unique. He had a kind of X-ray comedy vision where you could look at almost any topic and find something funny in it. And the stuff is just unexpected, surprising, and undated. You can see some of his early Letterman appearances or probably Tonight Show appearances. He was very funny. And to Keith's point, on his non-lazy side, he was the author of 3 books. So
They were a little weird.
They were a little weird, yes. I mean, he was a conspiracy theorist on JFK and other things before conspiracy theory.
He wasn't a theorist. He knew he was right.
He was a researcher, a conspiracy researcher.
I mean, I didn't know him, but weird would be what the first word I would think of, in a good way, not bad weird, but interesting weird.
But I don't think he was weird. I mean, a lot of comics seem weird. He was just insightful with a twist.
Yeah, and Michael, if you can attest to this, and I have seen him do a number of acts, and sometimes he would bring a stool out to the middle of the stage, have a newspaper, and look through the newspaper and start to riff off of it. Now that is something you do not see comics do, or they can't do. They're not quick enough. They're not clever enough. I don't know what it is, but he could do it.
Belzer had
In that he was reviving something that Mort Saul specialized in.
Yeah, but Belzer actually was better at it than Mort Saul.
Yeah.
Mort Saul was insufferable. But that's just my opinion. So I've tried to stay out of this a lot because while we weren't close friends, we were longtime friends. And the thing about Richard, from my perspective, is that I enjoyed his material, but that's not what stood out. It was the air between what he was talking about that was hilarious. Yeah, right, sure. There was, yeah, exactly. There's a guy, there's a video on
My favorite's the doctor.
Yeah.
Stay out of my ass.
I can't stop seeing him do Bob Dylan's.
Yeah, but I just want to sort of drill down on this because I think is one of the reasons that I was so honored to be his friend, and I think everybody that I've seen who's talked about it has that same feeling, which is that he carried a sort of a mental map of this whole show business universe. And he was part of that map. And everybody who he recognized, who was aware of who he was, thought of him as he was basically the mayor of show business in a profound way. And he was the link, in my opinion, from Lenny Bruce to Richard Pryor to, on and on. There's a sort of a through line. And I think, Michael, you've experienced this a lot in terms of the people that you knew in New York, in the comedy business. There's something about it, which is you're not just a writer or a performer. You're also the director, you're the executive producer of this universe that you have to go stand up there and create and nurture. And he was beyond the word mensch. He was somebody that you just couldn't believe, that there was somebody who was so woke.
The difference
In a good
between
way.
mensch and munch is just one letter.
So I miss him terribly.
Yeah.
I've missed him ever since he sort of departed from the scene and moved to France. And at the same time, I remember one of the last times I went to I was in New York for some sort of tech thing. And he invited me to the set of SVU, of Law and Order. And the set of Law and Order is this little SUV that he and Ice-T would be ported around to like 15 different locations that they would shoot one after the other. And so I'm sitting there, and there's, I don't know Ice-T's background. At the time, I wasn't aware that he was a rap star, but I kind of understood that. And he was sitting there, looking at his stocks, I think, or, something on a early BlackBerry. That's how early that was. And so it was fascinating in a sort of boring way, how they actually did their day job. Because that's what, to me, as an actor, acting was a day job for Richard. And at the end, I said, well, I got to go to this conference. And Richard says, well, off to save the world, right? And it wasn't a profound comment, but it just showed that, he put everybody that he was in touch with, he would put them into this map and understand. So he understood that I would like nothing better than to just hang out with him, but that, I had to go do something else. And instead of trivializing it or making fun of it, he thought, he elevated it. He said, good, I don't understand anything about what you're talking about, but
Good for you, yeah.
Make it
He's
work.
proud of you.
Yeah.
He also surprised me one night when I had invited him to come and see my band play at this club in New York that was owned by Chris Noth. And he came and he brought Ice-T.
Right?
Yeah, Mr. Big. He brought Ice-T, Ice-T's wife, Coco, and the guy that played the bald guy that played the lieutenant at the time is Dan Florek, who was also a guitar player. It was just amazing that this group of people came in, and he sat at the bar and they listened to the band for a while. And then we went and chatted with them, and he was just so generous and gracious, and it was an amazing moment that actually pushed me up a notch with the guys in my band, which was okay since I wasn't the best guitar player in the band. And Dan Florek knew that, so he gravitated towards the really good guitar player.
So we also lost another great man from Miles Davis's band,
Wayne Shorter.
Yeah.
Who also played in Weather Report, which was just.
I once went to a session with David Sanborn at the Earth, Wind and Fire studio in Los Angeles. And so Dave was doing an overdub on a song from the last Little Feat album, basically. And that was one studio. Earth, Wind and Fire were rehearsing and just hanging out in another studio, and I'm walking through. The engineer producer on the Bill Payne, the Little Feat record, was walking with me. We were talking a little bit about microphones and stuff, and this guy comes walking toward me out of this other room, and I said, and the producer says, "Hi, hey, Wayne." And Wayne nods to him and to me, like, who the fuck am I? And so I sort of pretended that I was interested in all these other sessions, and then snuck into the Weather Report rehearsal that was going on.
Was
And-
Jocko playing with them at the time?
Yes, he was. So it was the sort of funk version of Weather Report that came out of the Bitches Brew platinum record that Miles did, and In a Silent Way, which was the real birth of that whole thing. Yeah, Wayne Shorter, I never understood how profound his insight and education was, but I've been reading about him ever since he passed away a couple days ago. And as Miles went from the acoustic quintet that Wayne Shorter was a part of to the electronic thing, which some are not as big fans of, Wayne Shorter stayed with Miles through that entire decade.
Yeah.
And ended up writing most of the material on all of those records. So this is somebody who effectively replaced John Coltrane. So we're just talking about these people on Mount Rushmore.
Well, think of that second great Miles Davis quintet. It was Herbie, who's still with us.
Herbie Hancock.
Ron Carter, who I think Ron Carter is still with us, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Tony Williams, I know he's gone on the drums. And Wayne Shorter, and of course Miles. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. That group is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So we know these people as stars and geniuses, but internally, Belzer was one of those people.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And all you have to do is just follow the thread of the social media. There are a lot of people in on the British scene, particularly in comedy, that are in this thing. So I could say to you, Keith, a couple of connectors. Obviously the Goon Show. The history of how that coursed into through George Martin into the Beatles, and on and on. These are people that we will never forget, and we miss them terribly.
Yeah, the threads of culture are all woven together. Like even today, we all learn from each other. Makes me laugh when everyone criticizes Chat GPT for learning from other people.
Oh, that was your
Segue.
that was your mention. Oh, good. Please.
Way to go.
Let me
Nice
sit
job.
back and not listen to it.
Nice job, Keith. Who's not here? It is. There was actually a moment today where I didn't see some story about Chat GPT. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, I just delete them now. I don't even read them. Either way.
I feed off them.
Isn't Tesla going to make a Chat GPT car?
Well, they're gonna make one that drives itself first.
Didn't they decide that they were going to create some kind of software that if you didn't make a payment, the car would automatically drive itself back to the
Ford patented that. Ford patented a self-repossessing car.
That's a great idea.
So speaking of that, not Chat GPT. Is it GPT?
Yes.
GPT.
It's like not GTO.
What about this this meme that seems to be surfacing that Ford is the next, that they're going to blow away everybody?
I have a Ford electric car. In fact, Dennis will be interested in this. I had a 2021 Ford Mach-E, and yesterday I traded it in for a 2023 Ford Mach-E and got good money on it, by the way. But here's the interesting thing. They sold me the new one $2,000 under the asking price. So the cost significantly shifted
Yes.
from what it was. And that competition between the minute Tesla reduced prices, Ford reduced the car I bought was $6,000 less than the initial sticker. So the sticker that was in the window said, this is a big number, but it said $81,000. I got it for $63,000 because the MSRP had dropped to 65 and they gave me two off. And they gave me 50 for my old car. So basically I got a new car for $13,000. And they're wonderful cars. They're really, really wonderful cars. I drove a Tesla Model Y recently, a Hertz rental. No comparison. I mean, the Ford is far and away nicer. I don't know if it's a better car. There's all kind of good things about the Tesla, but it feels nicer to ride in. It's comfortable. It's modern.
Dennis, you kind of got close and then backed away from a Tesla. What's your thought?
Well, you know, it's interesting. There was an article in the Washington Post yesterday about this very topic, and one of the things that I took away from it was that the reporter was making some of the same points that I've made here, primarily that Tesla doesn't really understand how to deal with humans, how to deal with customers, how to treat customers, and I have said before that once they get up to speed. Companies like Ford, General Motors, and Hyundai will, with decades and decades of experience and dealer networks, et cetera, will, I think, do a very good job of cleaning Elon's clock.
You know, I'd be interested in, Dennis, in what you think, because I think you're right. He's challenged with the cars now, and there's good competition. That said, at the Tesla Investor Day, was it last week or the week before, he kind of spoke to this larger vision of a $10 trillion cost to make the Earth be sustainable from an energy point of view. And he is a weirdo, right? I mean, he's not really human friendly, and his companies reflect that. So I think you're right on the customer service stuff. But as an innovator, the breadth of the vision and the ability to execute against it seems something you just can't question. And I wouldn't bet against him being able to raise $10 trillion to where the cars just become one component of a whole energy network.
You know,
I thought the investment presentation.
I'm sorry. Could you finish your answer, and then Michael, would you repeat what you said? But I couldn't hear you.
I have. It's not ready for prime time yet, but I've noticed that there is a congruence between Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grief and a similar kind of thing with new entrants into new categories like electric cars. And the only thing I would say as a word of caution is that one of those stages is grift, and not every bright idea in energy and in geoengineering will actually work. Many of those ideas are ideas primarily developed or put forth to make money for whoever's putting them out. So classic example, there's a lot of talk recently about blocking some of the sun's rays to reduce the heat on the earth. And we've already done the natural experiment. Every time a major volcano erupts, it puts a lot of particulate matter into the stratosphere, and we have cooler years for a couple of years going forward. Times when crop yields aren't as robust, and other kinds of things that depend on sunlight, like forest growth or whatever. So coming along with an idea that says, yeah, well, let's put some aerosols into the air. Okay, well, that'll solve a problem, but it's not the root problem that you're trying to solve. It's part of grift.
Is that what he proposed, though?
I don't know what he proposed. I'm saying that there have been proposals out there recently by a variety of people. In fact, I'm reading I'm reading a book right now by somebody who's advocating that. A book about, I think the title is The Novacene, which is a proposed geological age that takes over after the Anthropocene, in which ChatGPT and its ilk begin to rule the world.
Was
So
that there was
my
a story?
reading of what he said is
Hang on, before I'd like to
yeah,
hear what
Michael.
Michael. Hang on a second. I'd like to hear
I
what
was going to
Michael
say the Investor Day presentations, I thought were very impressive. To a large extent, they kept Elon off the stage. They had, I think, 17 presenters from throughout the company. And no, they don't want to put new things in the atmosphere because their whole vision depends on solar energy and storing it in batteries. So their approach to global warming is to get carbon out of the air, not to throw more things into the atmosphere.
Well, I'm not accusing them of that. I'm simply making the point that grift is a real danger. And I will say to you that proposing batteries is a form of grift, because if you study the situation, you'll realize that we don't need any batteries at all. That geothermal energy, such as the energy that comes out of Sonoma Valley and powers San Francisco, is enough to supply our energy needs. So again, grift is my cautionary tale.
I wanted to say one more thing about Investor Day. Two things. One is I finally understand why the Cybertruck is so ugly, and that's because they designed it to eliminate two of the major steps in car manufacturing, which is stamping and painting. So by eliminating curved panels and by just using raw sheet metal, they hope to make it cheaper. But boy, that's an ugly thing. And the second thing I was going to say was the morning after the investor presentation, the stock dropped 7%.
I
So,
don't know if
Keith,
you can correlate
Keith,
those.
Can you pick up on where you were when?
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is, look, world GDP is close to 100 trillion. It's 96 trillion. I didn't read the details of what he said, but let's just assume that he's right, that for 10 trillion, you could totally transform energy. That's pretty cheap for the world. And just the fact that he can say that sentence and think about it is unusual, right? I mean, you don't hear other people talking about doing things like that. So I think we've got to give him the benefit of the doubt. I hear the grift thing. And I do think entrepreneurs, I'm one of them, you're always racing to be ahead of the narrative so that you're investable. I don't know if that's the same as grift, but you never want to be boring to your investors because they invest in what comes next, not what you did last. So I don't know if that's really grift or storytelling or a mixture of the both. Obviously, if you can't execute, it's fraud. I think he can execute. So I at this stage, I would give him the benefit of the doubt. I wouldn't necessarily agree with his particular solutions. I need to know more about them. But I think it's an interesting question. If that's the price of significant change, that is not a big price.
What if you could do it cheaper?
Even better.
The only reason that price is so high is that he's got to dip his beak and make profits from batteries.
So we haven't been the last post of the Gillmor gang was January 2nd of 23. So that means that what else? I mean, something must have happened in the last 2.5 months.
Well, we're in the midst of a book that will never be finished, but the book is entitled Donald Trump Indicted, and every week, every day, practically a new chapter is posted, but they never seem to finish the book. So there's been a whole lot of that since January 2nd. Probably too much to enumerate.
Well, at CPAC, he did say that regardless of whether he was indicted, he would still run. So he made that pretty clear yesterday, I think, at the end in his speech.
Okay,
along
let's do a quick.
For Trump campaign, being indicted is not a bug; it's a feature. The amount of whining and fundraising he can do over that probably exceeds what he could do not being indicted.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And don't forget that when he left office, everybody was wondering how he was going to pay something like $500 million back to Deutsche Bank.
Okay, let's make this practical for a second. Raise your hand if you think that he's going to be the Republican nominee. Now, be careful, because I said Republican.
Yeah, I think he will.
Okay, so raise your hand if you don't think he's going to be the. The reason I don't think he's going to be it is I think he's going to be the Trump party nominee. He's going to be an independent candidate, and he's going to effectively doom the Republican Party and elect a Democrat by doing so.
That'll be okay.
But I think
Well, he's gonna pull a Teddy Roosevelt.
I think you put cause before effect. He will be the Trump party nominee only if he's not the Republican Party nominee.
Correct.
Yeah.
I agree, and I don't think he's going to be the Republican nominee.
The reason I think he is more of a discredit on the Republicans, which is that I think the people who vote in the Republican primaries are largely Trumpers. So I think there are better candidates that the hierarchy of the Republican Party would rather choose, but they won't get what they want.
Look,
Well, I think
even
you have to understand Republicans first. Republicans have a history of silently walking away. Look what happened when Senator McCarthy of Wisconsin was discredited. Republicans just walked away. They just changed the subject. They didn't talk about him. Pretty much the same thing happened with Nixon. Again, with Trump, you're already seeing that people are sort of slowly leaving his orbit. I mean, he's got about 30% of the Republican Party as his base, and they're rabid and they're loyal and stuff. But 30% of the base of the Republican Party isn't enough to win anything.
Well, that'll be interesting. I hope you're
Well,
right.
it was in 2016. I mean, the theory of the case is that a large part of the professional Republican Party wants to move on, has moved on. You can see how many people just declined to show up at CPAC. They don't want Trump. But on the other hand, unlike Nixon, Trump does have his hooks into some part of the voting base that just will not let go of him. And the Republican rules are not first past the post. I'm sorry, they are first past the post. They are winner take all. They're not proportional. So in Democratic primaries, if a bunch of candidates score significant points above a certain threshold, they all get delegates. In many states in the Republican side, it's whoever gets the most votes, the biggest plurality, that gets the candidates, gets all the delegates. So Trump has an advantage in that, unless the rest of the Republicans agree to back a single candidate.
Well, and then of course his advantage is doubled by the sort of the coming fact that there may be a lot of candidates on the Republican side in the primary, which would bode well for Trump.
The logic tree suggests that they should dump him. All the logic is they should dump him from their point of view. But it feels to me as if the greater the logic, the more resistant the base are to agreeing with it. It's like they've got an internal binary split.
See, I don't think you should be looking at the base for this. And I'll tell you why. You just go back to 2020. The Democrats had a very robust field, and when it became apparent that Joe Biden could win a lot of primaries, people just folded. People went out of their way to say, this election is too important for me to stay in it. The Republicans could do that. And so the base wouldn't have a say in it. The base would say, okay, here's the candidate. Do we support that candidate or don't we?
Well, I agree with that. And that's why I said, unless the Republicans all converge on a single candidate, then the multiplicity of candidates works in Trump's favor. If there is a single opponent to Trump, then I think 30% is not a good number.
Right.
Well, I saw a newsletter article, which, of course, since there was a paywall line in it, it was the top 10 candidates in the Republican Party, who could undermine Trump, and of course, it went down to number 6. So I have absolutely no idea, what the guy really thought. But there's definitely a sense that, and this goes back to something that I tried to say on the show about a year ago, which was about what's that guy's name? Ron
DeSantis?
Yeah,
the sanctimonious?
Yeah,
Sanctimonious.
All Ron?
yeah, basically what I was trying to say was, this guy, you may not like him. I don't like him, but he can do some damage here.
I think he's doing so much damage in Florida right now that he's hurting himself as a general election candidate, don't you? I
have no idea. What I am saying is that I was watching Meet the Press today. Meet the Press is slightly getting better, amazingly, because if there is anything that Chuck Todd knows about, it's politics. So it's, and they had some guy, Sununu's son, whatever, he's the governor of New Hampshire, and this guy's openly, he's not saying anything about Trump that's negative. He's just saying, no, he's not going to get there.
Yeah, there's a few of them saying that.
And that's an interesting political move that is started to take place. And I think the ramifications of it are that even if Trump figures out a way of pulling himself back into it, which I'm not clear that he does have a way, that he's inevitably going to force some sort of third party energy, which is going to further fragment that 30 or 27% of the voting population. So whether or not this turns out to be a bunch of minnows, like it was in 2016 that he went through to get the nomination, he might, but he's sowing the seeds of a major loss to the Democrats if he does.
He's sowing the seeds of more violence too.
Yeah. I trust a little bit more the voting public than I used to.
Your mouth to God's ears. I hope he's listening.
Okay, we talked about politics. What else? And we're gonna wrap this up soon.
Well, there's a lot of great stuff on the stream right now, I gotta say. I've been hooked on a number of really good shows that I don't know if any of you have seen Daisy Jones and the Six yet, but it is really good. It's a story of a band that comes together in the 70s. They start out in Pittsburgh and they end up in Los Angeles, and it's the ups and downs. It's
what
pretty.
channel?
I want to say it's on. Amazon.
Amazon, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good. And then I saw another one that on Disney that I just kept avoiding and avoiding. And finally I said, oh, what the hell, I'll watch it, called Future Man. Incredible, absolutely incredible, and worth your time if you get a chance. Just get past the first episode of it. It's really good.
I wanted to like that a lot more than I did. I love the idea. I love the art direction. I love the tone, but I just found it tedious after I gave up after 3.
Give it a couple of more. I think you'll get hooked by it. It the same happened to me. I felt like I can't watch it, but then I forced myself to watch another one, and eventually, before I knew it, I'd gone through 2 seasons and I hadn't slept in like a day and a half.
The Apple Plus show that I love now most is Shrinking.
Oh, that's incredible.
So well written, and it's probably the best work Harrison Ford has ever done. He has such a gift for comedy that he rarely gets to exercise. He's just marvelous in it.
And the thing
he's pretty good on 1923 too.
Absolutely,
He is. But that's that's more of a Harrison Ford typical role than Shrinking.
I'll take it.
Have any of you watched Tomorrow Man with Billy Crudup? Billy, what's his name?
Crudup.
Yeah.
Crudup.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know what? That's what I wasn't talking about the show Frank was talking about.
Oh, now I understand.
Tomorrow Man.
I totally agree with you, Michael, now that I understand what you said.
But actually, Michael, you were right about it anyway.
Tomorrow Man is selling houses on the moon. That one.
Yeah.
Well, what network is that one on, or what streamer? And I'll go watch that starting tonight.
Very, very funny.
It wasn't good enough to creep me out, but it was close.
And what about the second season of Your Honor?
Of what?
Your Honor.
Oh, you've never seen
oh my God. Oh my God, that's incredible.
It's the best show on television.
It's incredible.
Are any of you watching Poker Face?
Yes, it's enjoyable.
You prompted me to watch, and I've watched about 6, and it's kind of watchable, but I'm not as into it as you are, because I've seen it's like the same every week now. So now
the interesting thing is when you get to after you get past 6, they start varying it. They try and keep the formula, but they get more unexpected and unpredictable.
And
I'd rather just
check out Russian Doll also.
Yeah.
Great premise, worth at least 2 episodes. But my point is that the advertiser supported streaming seems to be the thing, and I think it's the way it's going. And I think that it's interesting that they're also starting to do things in the stream very much like was being done or is being done on traditional broadcast networks, and bundling. So it feels like we're really back to the future.
We had the occasion to listen to Chris Rock live.
Yeah, anybody see that?
No, I did not. I just read a lot of free publicity.
Well, Brent, since you're loath to talk much about it, can you give us a little bit of that?
Let me see. I have a transcript. I can read some of the jokes back.
Did you read the transcript, or did you see the show?
Actually, my sister, of all things, sent a text out saying, "Hey, Chris Rock is live," and that was kind of interesting on Netflix's part to do something live like that. And then
they're emulating you and the Players Network. How about that?
Actually, they must be, because it was even interesting. Because first of all, I thought it was really good, particularly those last 2 minutes when he just skewered the hell out of Will and Jada. That was beautiful stuff. But what was really interesting was the after show with Dana Carvey and
that was quite funny.
That was David Spade and with Arsenio Hall. Some lady I didn't know who she was, and my boy JB Smoot.
Yeah,
It was actually really interesting. I thought that was a cool thing that I don't know if this is something they're experimenting with, but because at first when I got the text from my sister, I was like, well, I want to watch it on my TV. So I went to the Netflix app, couldn't get it. But I was able to go right to on my phone and watch it on there, which was really interesting. I was like, I would love to have seen it on my big screen, but I didn't, I
Well,
couldn't find it.
All you need is
We
a
saw it through
Chromecast.
YouTube TV and it worked fine.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
see, I get my Netflix through, I haven't hooked it into the YouTube TV. This is the Netflix app. Yeah, maybe I'll do that now. But that was,
use a Chromecast, Brent. Get a Chromecast.
oh, I got that too, but it didn't give me that option on mine. I don't know. Maybe I got to update the app. But anyway, yeah, Netflix is, I guess, they have to do some live stuff. They need to get some live sports because that's how you get people. I mean, if you looked at all the chatter, I mean, it was trending all night. I think it was still trending. Chris Rock's name was still. So yeah, I think this is going to be something that all these services are going to have to figure out. How do they get appointment viewing, live stream people? Because it's not just the viewing, it's obvious people want to engage. I'm sure there are reaction videos already on YouTube to that. So this is
There'll be a lot of reaction videos, like what?
but
I know. I mean, he had a lot to say that was really surprising that he, got through on a.
Hey, that stuff with the abortions, I was really surprised he was able to get that. Because that was some rough stuff there. But
when he called it killing babies.
Yeah.
Over and over. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
really? Yeah. Wow.
But I think this is gonna the after effect. We'll see how successful this will be, because I think there's going to be a ton of reaction videos, which is going to keep people talking about this stuff. And you're going to see Dave Chappelle live or somebody, because that was a hit.
Well, it felt like a Dave Chappelle gig, actually.
This is absolutely I think, again, the first of this ilk that we're going to see a lot more. I mean, stand-up's the perfect thing to do with it. And doing this, live appointment. You got to be there, get your friends. Let's watch this thing.
Let's talk about it afterwards.
I thought the after show was equally significant.
The after show.
That's part of the whole thing. That's part of the whole experience.
Yeah. Well, I thought the pre-show was terrible, but
I didn't even watch that. I don't know.
Should have been. It wasn't good.
But yeah, you're gonna see, and it was smart then they used to do Chris Rock, because he had never talked about the slap. And it took a year before that last 10 minutes. That was most of the buzz, what everybody was talking about, how hard he went at them. But it wouldn't have worked if had they been talking about this all along for the last year. But
it also wouldn't have worked if he hadn't had a really, really great set before he started talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lead in.
But in terms of the ballyhoo and the buildup, he was all about the slap. For the first time, Chris Rock is going to talk about the slap.
And it was nice how he kind of, remember he said something about who was he? He said something about Jay-Z. He said, well, I don't want to talk about that because I don't want another rapper, And then he did that with somebody else. So he just layered it in, and then at the end gave it to you. But everybody was waiting.
You did a bit, yeah.
Yeah, you'll be able to tell us what Jazzy Jeff has to say about it after your gig, right?
That was from like 3 years ago, man. I'm out of retirement unless I get an offer that I can't refuse. So.
All right, once around the table, starting with Dennis.
Oh, got nothing. I'm out of practice.
I wanted
you're in practice.
I wanted you to talk about your green and black and white striped, what looks to me like a rugby jersey.
It does.
It is.
I have no idea what I'm talking about.
What's the context? A New England man with a rugby jersey. There's got to be a story.
Not really, no. I mean, well, younger men wear these. I'm perhaps close to unique being my age and still wearing these things, but it's really comfortable. It's warm and it is winter. And that's kind of like it.
Yeah,
Also, my wife can grab me and doesn't
You look like you could play rugby. You've got the right build.
Okay, Tina,
I played American football once, and I don't think I want to go back to that. Especially since rugby doesn't have helmets.
Hmm.
Tina.
A bit like, sorry.
I'll get to you.
I thought I had a last thing to say, but
All right,
I'm not sure I do. If
I'll
I
go to
remember
Keith.
it, But I do just want to say, it is really nice to see you all here today. I'm so happy to see you. Great
And it's
conversation.
good to
I love
see you.
Thank you.
I just want to pick up from where Dennis left off about having played American football once. That's also true of Brent's team. They used to be able to play as well.
Ooh.
Oh, how I've missed that. So yes.
Yeah. So did Manchester United.
Oh, don't even talk about
Ooh.
it. Talk
Way to have
about
my
Okay.
back, Frank.
Right.
Michael Markman.
I've got nothing except that spring is on the way. There are plenty of shoots coming up, early buds. The crocuses are out. All of these things seem to happen without reference to anything that's on the news, and I enjoy them.
Hmm.
My naked chestnut tree is now full of green leaves here. So you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, Keith.
I just want to say that Chat GPT is awesome. I'm glad we didn't talk about it because now no one can contest that point.
Frank.
So I heard that the cherry blossoms are starting to bloom in DC. That's something I'd love to go and see. But well, that's it. I got nothing else.
Somebody might post a picture of it.
Good. I'll immerse myself in it in the VR.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for rejoining. And we'll see you again next time.
I didn't get a chance to say nothing.
You did. I thought I asked you several times.
Oh, you didn't give me my parting shot thing.
And you're unhappy with that?
Yeah, I like the ability to refuse.
Okay.
I'm gonna
But I
Go
was
ahead.
actually going to say something. Oh, look at that's nice.
get on a second.
You want to show that again?
No, go.
No, I was going to say I was over in India for a week as part of these analyst group that went to check out Zoho's headquarters. It was such a nice, pleasant experience, not hearing anything about stuff going on social media or what some idiot said that was ridiculous. It was just so nice to be away from that part of the world just for a week to enjoy none of the nonsense that takes place. And of course, when I got right back, it was just gone like I had never been gone. So I did enjoy that.
Welcome back.
Nice.
I think there just should be a warning. Don't follow Keith Tier. Then there won't be any idiots saying stupid stuff.
You're apologizing for something that hasn't been mentioned.
I know. I'm getting ahead of the game here.
Yeah. It's not working.
We haven't, Keith, you haven't mentioned how to get to the Gillmor gang in its location.
Oh.
T.me/Gillmor gang.
There you go.
It still works. Good.
Wherever you go.
Yeah,
There
that's
you
what
are.
I wonder. I mean, IFTT, is that evaporating under the Musk onslaught?
No, I think
Well, you were the one that told me this, so.
yeah, but I think they might have grandfathered some people in, and
Uh-huh.
IFTT may be one of them. Let's just look. Let's look. You can do a comparison. If the feed on Telegram is different than the feed on Twitter, then the answer is it's now broken.
No, because the feed on Telegram and the feed on the Gillmor Gang Twitter feed it has been broken
Oh, so
by me.
Oh, we didn't put it.
Oh, that's true, actually. Yeah, so you can't test. But
No,
oh, that's true. You are quite right.
Well, okay.
yeah, so we should find out if anybody's followed in many of the so-called API services at Twitter have sort of been disemboweled, and some have been returned, some haven't. The question is whether IFTTT has. Also, Substack seems to be I don't know how to say this, but they seem to be improving their strategy of remaining viable regardless of the venture capital community, which I think is very interesting and important.
And,
Yeah.
and I can now confirm that IFTTT does still work on Twitter because it's working for the Keith Tier feed.
Excellent.
Yeah, by the way, what you said about Substack, a good TechCrunch Plus article on that. It says,
Really?
I'll
What
send
is-
you the link. It says perhaps Substack can grow just fine without venture dollars, which is interesting.
Well, they've positioned themselves. What was the round that they started on and then backed away from it, Keith?
I don't remember which round it was, but I can tell you if you give me a second.
That's all right. It would have been maybe a C round.
I will tell you just now. They have done. They've raised $82 million, and the last round was a Series B. So the next one would have been a C. You're quite right. They
Okay.
raised a Series B in 2021, and for those who don't follow the venture industry, that is the most overpriced year for Series Bs. And this week, Chamath Palihapitiya, which is hard to say, and a bunch of others all wrote pieces saying that anyone that raised money in 2021 is going to have to wait 3 years until they're worth as much as they were aimed to be worth then.
Wow.
Assuming they keep executing.
But don't worry, that money will be there when you get to 2024.
Or whether
But $82 million is a substantial amount of money. I mean, I don't know what their head count is, but if you roughly factor in $150,000 a year per head count as an average, and you divide that into 82 million and divide by 3, I bet you they've easily got 3 years runway.
Well, they do have other costs, don't they?
Yeah, but head count's the biggest cost by far.
Well, maintaining a development path for them is going to be seriously important since they have no real competition at this point because everybody else has backed away from it.
Mm.
Okay, Tina, can you lead us out there with
Yeah, I just thought we'd say goodbye now.
yeah, just go ahead and do it. No, just do it and then we'll say goodbye.
Okay. Oh, ooh,
Oh,
shoot.
the Black Mirror.
Oh, that's a nice picture.
Yeah.
What
that.
year was that, roughly?
80 something.
This one probably came from 88 or
80,
7.
87, 88, something like that.
You look
Yeah.
so serious.
That's what I'm saying.
She says she is angry. I don't see it. I don't see the anger. I think that
Pensive.
she's staring into like, what the hell is this all really about?
the rock album cover.
It really is.
It was. I think it's a great picture of Bells.
Yeah, nice smile.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've always felt.
So here's the wow. LinkedIn says that Substack has 492 employees. 82 million is only enough for 180 employees for 3 years.
Okay.
Hmm.
Thanks to everybody who showed up and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So you're saying there's a next time.
I'm implying it.
Heard that too.
Didn't say when.
Chow mein.
Let's stop the street.